So this one's going to be basically on my experiences this morning waking up, right? So I go to make some tea. And it's a bit of a mess, not too bad. I've already washed most of it now, but there's chicken in the bowl, which means the cockroaches and the flies are feeding. I like being sober and drug-free because my nerve ending sensory response is very intact, so when I touched the faucet, I felt the grease on it. So this has cost me like an extra 20 minutes in my morning routine, right? To get from point A of waking up to point B of, exercising, vacuuming, etc. Just to clean up after the roommate who is a fucking mess. But as I'm doing that, this is where Judaism kind of fucked me up in a good way. Because it has me really focused on kosher, on cleanliness. Cleanliness is holiness, right? And I'm just going to disinfect this again. The roommate's really fucking dumb. Like, the dude calls me a germaphobe for being clean. Sorry about this one. There we go. At any rate, so yesterday the roommate cooked. And he deep fried yams and made a chicken and some sort of sauce, vinegar barbecue sauce. And it smelled really good. And I'm thinking, well, maybe it's kosher. So I asked him what he cooked it in. And he claimed that he had fried the yams that he sliced up in canola oil or something. Now, I know he's lying, but I didn't know that yesterday. But I know he's a liar. This is where Judaism, kicks in. So the sauce that he used, I've seen it before when I use his bathroom, and he keeps it in the shitter. And the bottle was open and, like, partially empty in the bathroom. The barbecue sauce. So I'm like, yeah, I don't want that. And I asked him straight up, and he's like, no, man, I don't do that. And I know he's a liar, so... Not that he's a bad guy, I'm not knocking him or nothing. Just, accuracy and observation. But this morning I wake up and I'm looking, and this container right here is where I'd put the pork chopped grease from 2 days ago. And I had also washed out this pan. Ooh, look at that. The fucking whole stove is just covered in grease, right? But I'd washed out that pan myself because he doesn't fucking clean shit. So it's a good thing that I followed the tenets of Judaism for cleanliness. Because I don't know what it is, like, if it's I'll watch that in a minute. If it's the inbreeding that causes, the same thing that was his grand mal seizures when he was young and now his anxiety, etc. Or if it's cultural conditioning, if it's his attitude against, thinking and intelligence, book reading, etc., anti-science, this when it's convenient. But for some reason, he refuses to comprehend the concept that pork grease is still pig, that it's still not kosher. He tried to break my kosherness. He tried to sneak me food that was fried in pork grease because he doesn't see grease and pork as, part of the same thing. So it's not pork, it's the grease from the pork. And it's really dumb and really dishonest. And that's the kind of shit that I have to deal with. And that's going to make school more difficult because his stupidity basically is spilled into or forced into my time and occupies my time and headspace against my will. I don't want to fucking deal with it. I don't want to think about it. I have other things to dedicate my mind to. What a world. Here's another example. See, I'm associating I'm associating a lot of this with genetics because I think his cultural conditioning was technically Christian, and so therefore he's going against his cultural conditioning. Sorry, I dropped the lid. These motherfuckers are too lazy to put their fucking shit away after using it. And yeah, so that's the point, right? So yesterday he thought he was helping, and technically was. Because I had a bunch of kitchen towels and rags in the dishwasher, so they could be washed. And because there's no hamper for the kitchen stuff. And I don't want to put it in my hamper because his grossness, I don't want it spilling into my room, etc. But for some fucking retarded reason, there's normally a towel here that is the drying towel. And for whatever retarded reason, it looks like he washed it yesterday thinking, I'm helping, which you kind of like Ralph Wiggum's, right? The finger in the nose. But he didn't put any of the fucking dishes away. And that's why I associate this, laziness and filthiness, not just with diet, but also with hygiene, cleanliness, etc., with genetics, with his inbreeding. There's another example. One roommate broke the stove, the smart one who worked 72 hours a week, broke the stove because he wasn't sleeping and just running on caffeine and nicotine. And it's been broken for like 2 weeks now. I think maybe 3 weeks. And the fucking roommate who owns the house and owns the stove keeps putting it on me to fix it. Like his brain, what's that called? Perspective memory, where you create like a mental note to do something later on and never does it. Yeah, so he hasn't fixed the stove despite having 2 hands and all his parts and cognitive faculties about him, right? He never electrocuted himself for whales and trees, doesn't have a brain injury, doesn't have schizophrenia. He does have an anxiety diagnosis, but every doctor who tries to wean him off the medication, he says, fuck you, you're wrong, I'm right. And so any doctor who disagrees with him is fired. And yeah, so here we have other food just left out and things like that. Look at that. It's a fucking mess. So I'm associating all of this with nature dominating nurture. Right? You could try to, what's that word there? The operant conditioning model. You can try to do some behavior modification, but it will only do so much. He will always revert back to his unhygienic, unsavory lifestyle state. And so this is what I mean by Judaism fucked me up in a good way, right? Like, had I not followed the tenets of Judaism, especially about resisting assimilation, not adopting the lifestyles of your non-Jewish neighbors and roommates, etc., then I would have eaten the chicken and the yams last night because they smelled really good and I was really hungry. But I did not eat because of my strict adherence to halakha and the mitzvot as best that I can. And that's good because, I know that he really has terrible hand washing practices and keeps food in his bathroom. So I call it the shitter, he calls it the fridge. But Judaism is the one thing that's created with psychology, right? This is the practical application of religion. Is the only thing creating effective barriers between me and food made by someone with disgusting, dirty hands that probably have shit on them. And I also have some inbreeding in my family as well, hence my schizophrenia diagnosis, but I think I have a superior intelligence to my roommate in this regard, yet he seems to have a superior digestive system to me. despite being heavily, European inbred. He can handle hard water just fine. He's